Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners podcast powered by Riverwind Casino. My name is Brandon Drum here with Parker Thune. Pro Day, recruiting. Shoot, Parker, spring practice that we got to view. Like, we haven't talked even about that yet at all. There's a lot to discuss. And obviously OU plays in the SEC tournament. They open up tonight at 8:30. We're recording this on a Wednesday morning. A lot to talk about for you guys right here on this podcast. We can't wait to get into that. But first, we're going to thank some sponsors.
And that starts with our presenting sponsor, Riverwind Casino. And Sooner fans, look, you deserve the ultimate gaming experience. For almost 20 years in the OKC Metro, that has been Riverwind Casino. Almost 3,000 electronic games, table games, bars and dining options, as well as the best live music in the Metro. It's no surprise that Riverwind is always a good time. Thanks to Riverwind Casino for their partnership with us.
Yes, and we also want to thank Refine You Med Spa Oklahoma City. Achieving a healthy weight can be challenging to do on your own, but you're not alone. The skilled team at Refine You Med Spa offers treatments that complement weight loss goals and long-term weight loss support, so you achieve the weight that supports good health and self-esteem. You can achieve your ideal look and feel with Refine You state-of-the-art practices that offer a diverse selection of aesthetic treatments, providing services that benefit everyday shape, every body shape and skin type. The expertly trained Refine You Med Spa team strives to ensure patients receive personalized treatment plans focused on optimal aesthetic results. The team offers the latest and most popular non-invasive procedures and injectables like Botox, Dysport, Daxify, and derma fillers. They also offer state-of-the-art laser treatments for skin tightening, surface, sun damage, all of that. If your girlfriend's, they want the lip filler, they want the derma fillers, all that type of stuff. You can go to Med Spa, OKC Med Spa, and they will help you out. They have been the number one med spa in Oklahoma City, according to 405 Magazine, for the last 5 years. So make sure you go and get a free consultation by calling 405-849-5391 or go to refineyookc.com. They don't sell procedures, they sell results. All right. Here we go. We got to see Pro Day yesterday. Trace Ford
made
him some moolah.
That was the storyline yesterday.
It was the storyline.
Trace Ford.
Yes.
Danny Stutzman only did bench press. Ethan Downs and Billy Bowman didn't do anything. The obvious draft guys were not participating with the expectation of the 22 reps, or the exception, excuse me.
Down Pro Day that you've ever been to?
That was my expectation. When we found out, okay, Stutzman's only doing bench, Ethan and Billy aren't competing at all. My thought was, okay, like, what realistically are we getting out of this Pro Day? Turns out we're getting one of the most impressive Pro Day performances that I can recall, at least relative to expectations, from Trace Ford.
Yeah.
4.55 in the 40-yard dash. Brandon, holy smoke. And look, that was not the only test that he passed with flying colors. I mean, he broad jumped 10-2. He had a 36-inch vert. He would have had top 5 times at the combine among defensive ends in both the 3-cone drill and the short shuttle. But that 40 time, 4.55, that is what will get you paid.
Man, and again, I think people need to understand, like, that 40 time is going to make him a lot of money, but you brought up the 5.10.5, like, he was super impressive with that, and the L drill, right? The 3-cone drill. That, for a defensive end edge rusher, is a very telling drill just because of how you have to bend your hips and turn on such tight corners like you would rushing a passer. And the second he made that last turn and did almost like a 360, I don't remember who it was. And actually it may have been Chavis standing right next to us when that happened. And I said, uh-oh, That dude just made him some money on that turn. And everybody was hooting and hollering, and his vert, bro, was insane. Insane. That I think it you remember how dead quiet it was until he got up there and did the vert
Yes.
in that building? And that
Yes.
lit the whole place up the rest of the time. Like everybody was into it after that. It changed the whole dynamic of that pro day. It went from just being like, oh, here we go, blah blah blah. And then Trace goes up there and jumps almost 4 feet, and everybody's like, holy crap. I mean, he's very, but we knew that coming out of high school. Like you knew he was that type of athlete coming out of high school. It's just a shame that knee, and maybe that's what makes this so impressive, the knee injuries that he's had, and that he's still doing this. Like, what could he have done had he never had those injuries, Parker? Is that not crazy to think about?
Oh, it'll be something that gets talked about not only in Oklahoma circles, but in Oklahoma State circles too,
Yeah.
right? Is what might Trace Ford have been if he'd avoided the injury bug? But all in all, the reason I think the 4.55 and the 40 is so significant, Brandon, is because he measures in at 6'2", 249 at the front end of pro day. And so at that size with that speed, I think what that suggests is that NFL front offices are going to feel that they can do something with him, even if that's not just putting him at defensive end. Obviously, I think he projects best to kind of a stand up, occasional hand in the dirt, edge rusher type of guy at the next level, a Nick Benito, if you will.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're talking pre 2024 Nick Benito when he morphed into one of the best defensive players in the entire league. But that's what Nick Benito kind of came in as, a guy with similar measurables and testing numbers and a very similar skill set. But that's not the only thing that you can do with Trace Ford. I was standing there talking to Jason Woolard, Caden's dad, quite extensively for a
Hmm.
while there at Pro Day. And, he played linebacker back in the day at the collegiate level, played at Bowling Green up in Ohio. And he said, man, I wonder if Trace could play off ball linebacker because of how well he ran and how well
Yeah.
he moved at that size. And
Interesting
it's a
thought. Yeah.
legitimate consideration to be had for a guy like Trace Ford
He
because
did it some at OU.
he did, like, there were, and
Yeah, he
it
did it
wasn't
some.
frequent, but there
Nope.
were snaps where he lined up at what you would have considered to be the cheetah spot, for
Yep.
instance. Like,
Yep.
he's his versatility and just the sheer athleticism at that size. I think, to kind of make a parallel here to one of the topics that we'll probably hit not too much later in the podcast, but the same reason I think Trace Ford is going to do something at the NFL level is the same reason I think Jaron Kanik is going to do something at the NFL
Hmm.
level. It's because when you are that good of an athlete at that size, someone will find something for you to do on the football
Yeah.
field.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he is just he's almost like an enigma at this point, just because, he had probably his career year at Oklahoma this past season. Um, and he flashed like, yeah, and I think that's kind of the deal is you look back at his 2024 season and you're like, okay, well, he had those moments where you can see that 4.5, where you can see that 5.10.5, you can see the L drill, right? Like you can see all those things show up on the field, and you're like, but why wasn't it so consistent? And I don't know why it wasn't consistent. I that's a great question. Maybe he didn't get the playing time he maybe deserved. I don't know. I think that's probably a bad way to look at it because of who was in front of him. There's this guy named R. Mason Thomas that has a chance to be a late first, second round guy when his time's up at Oklahoma. So there are a lot of variables that are are coming into play or went into play with his career injuries, all that type of stuff. I I do think though that somebody's going to take a chance on him because he's just such a freak athlete. Like if you can get the technique down, if he can be that 4.5 guy off the edge, if he can be, that four 3 or 4-4 or whatever he was and the 5-10-5 and whatever. If he can be that guy, if he can be that guy, the vert on a down in and down out basis in the NFL, he can be not just a contributor, but one of the best players on your defense. And that's the crazy part about his athleticism. So we're going to find out what he can do here pretty soon and how the NFL looks at him come the draft. I thought the other guy that had a really good day was Woody. I thought Woody Washington had a pretty decent day. He ran a 4.57, which surprised me. Not gonna lie, that shocked me. I pegged him, and he even talked about it. Everybody thinks he's a nickel, and that he doesn't know now because of his 40. Like he may be able to play corner in the NFL now with that 40 if he can get his technique down and all that type of stuff. I thought Casey Thompson, who I don't know that he's going to get a shot. I don't know. I hope he does for his case, for his sake. But he looked good throwing the ball. His last throw that he threw was a rollout. And I'm standing there with Michael Hawkins, Parker, and he's talking about just how smart Casey Thompson is and how much of a leader he was inside that quarterback room and how they leaned on him for everything and that he can be an amazing coach at some point and that he hopes he comes back to be a coach at some point at Oklahoma. And during that conversation, he rolls to the left. Remind you all, he's right-handed. And he fades and he throws it off platform 50 yards down the field right in the breadbasket to his receiver. So it got Michael Hawkins oohing and on. It got everybody, even some of the scouts were like, wow, that was a great throw. What a throw, you know? And I think at that point in time, Casey kind of realized that he had a really good day. But it's kind of a shame that he didn't really touch the field at all last year. With everything that went on, right? With the troubles that that offense had, you didn't try to throw that kid out there to just see what he could do? You had nothing to lose. You were already sub
Well,
500.
no, because I mean, we were having this conversation in real time. The natural juncture for that to have occurred was the Alabama game. And what
Yep.
Oklahoma did in the Alabama game worked. So,
Yeah, it's very true. But I just kind of feel bad for him at the end of the day. Injuries derailed his career as well. Um, let's talk Jaron Kanek then. I mean,
yeah,
that
there's
interview was,
something there, man. There's
yep,
something there. And look, I'm not necessarily trying to sell anybody on him being a 50, 60 catch guy in this offense. But what makes me so encouraged about Jaron Kanek's capacity to contribute is that, if you heard him articulate, and the interview has blown up, you can check it out on our YouTube channel, the OU Insider YouTube channel. But if you haven't heard him articulate all the reasons why he is motivated to make a difference for this program at tight end and why it was a transition he was more than willing to undergo rather than getting in the transfer portal and trying to make it work at linebacker somewhere else with his senior year. This is a kid that's going to be driven to get on the field.
yeah,
And look, that's all fine and well. And it's, great to have those lunch pail work ethic guys, right? But we all know that's not enough in most cases. That's not enough. You have to
uh,
have some natural ability. You have to have some God-given tools. Jaron Kanek has those in spades, man. 6'2", 230, absolute freak of an athlete who's been consistently laser timed in the 4.4 range
mhm.
since he's gotten to Oklahoma in the 40-yard dash. Ran what, a 10.27 in the 100 meters in high school. He can run like the wind, and I'm not sure how many people are really cognizant of that with Jaron Kanek. If you recall, when he got to Oklahoma, that's what everybody was enamored with, was the
Yeah.
speed. Man, who in the country is going to have a linebacker as fast as Oklahoma will have in Jaron Kanek? That was the narrative going into his freshman season, and
Mhm.
the linebacker experiment didn't work out. But man, having a guy that just has his natural penchant for contact, having a guy
Yeah.
with a linebacker background now at tight end that not only is going to welcome contact, but line up with the intention of burying somebody on every single snap. I'm convinced that Jaron Kanik is going to see the field for Oklahoma at tight end, most specifically because he's going to block well. And that's something Oklahoma really hasn't had the last couple of years. They haven't had a tight end that could block consistently and well since Braden Willis in 2022. And so if Jaron Kanik, if all he does, if all he flashes in spring ball and fall camp is that he can be a reliable blocker, I promise you he's going to get on the field. And if
Hmm.
blocking is what gets him on the field, I think at some point, naturally, he's going to be given an opportunity to run a route, run a few routes. And at that point, then I think you have something really cool on your hands because even if he's only on the field primarily to block, if you get him running routes, he's going to create separation.
Hmm.
He's too fast and he's too athletic not to. It's also crazy to consider that, as he acknowledged in his availability the other day, he's never really felt completely comfortable at linebacker.
No,
And Brandon, let's not sugarcoat it. He didn't have a decorated career as a linebacker.
no. He
But
had his moments. Yeah.
how many guys are simply good enough athletes to play as true freshmen, eventually to start, to have games where they lead the team in tackles, have some really, really strong individual performances as he did for the first half of his sophomore year. How many guys are good enough to do all of that at a position they're not comfortable in? How much more potential is there for Jaron Kanik when you stick him somewhere that he is more comfortable? And he's given every indication that he already is more comfortable at tight end than he was at linebacker.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I will say I talked to a few people yesterday and was just kind of digging around about practice and like what they thought. Because, during pro day, you have all these influx of people that get to go to the practices like the day before, the few days before, right? And so I took full advantage of that and kind of asked, what did y'all think of the practices? And, Kanik was brought up by one person in particular. Um, you probably know who I'm talking about just because I spent such an inordinate amount of time talking to that person. And they said, and I'm going to quote him, he struggles at blocking at times, but it's because he's new to it and he doesn't know how to use his hands just yet. He just doesn't. Like that's the learning process, the technique. If they're running a certain play, a stretch play, where do my hands need to be to get the defender I'm blocking where I want them to go? Like seal off block. Where do your hands need to be? It's one high, one low, right? It's one center chest, one upper by the shoulders, those type of things. And I know I talk technique and stuff like that a lot, but those are the little things that are going to make or break him at tight end because he's going to go up against defensive ends and linebackers that know how to get out of those hand placements. So he's going to have to get really refined on punch and then counter punch and how to adjust in those type of areas with his blocking. And so then they went on and talked about his route running and said it's just pristine. But he's putting in all the work. I think that's key. And that's something you expect because you know what BV said about Jaron Kanik, right? He's a film, he's a gym rat, he's everything you want. And
And here's what's most important there, Brandon. He's got 1 year.
yep,
It's got to happen this year for
it
him.
has to happen.
And trust me, nobody is more cognizant of that reality than he is.
No, and he said that. He goes, this is make or break for me. And he goes, I love the university and I want to be here. That's why I didn't transfer because I wanted to finish my career where I started. He goes, I don't think people do that enough nowadays. Everybody's worried about NIL. These are things that came out of his mouth. He's like, and I just love being here. So why would I leave? I'm going to flip to the other side and give it the old, as he said, the old college try. And I love that about Kenny. I think that interview is much disdain as Sooners fans had for him at linebacker, they grew to love him like that. Just because they got to see a different side. He looked more relaxed, Parker. Looked more relaxed just in the interview. He doesn't look as stressed. He looks like he's having fun again.
That's
And I
very
think that's the
true, man.
key.
And I hadn't really thought about that, but like whenever we'd talked to Jared Kanik before, when he was playing linebacker, and
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say that like this is a 100% relation. This is the like this is the only thing going on.
Yeah.
But it is really just intriguing to see how his attitude and the entire dynamic of his persona kind of
Yeah.
shifted when he started playing tight end.
Yeah. He's not serious in the interviews anymore. Like he was like dead serious last year. Like you would get good quotes from him, but you didn't get the fun. We were always like, where's this fun side that we see on Twitter?
Yeah,
And you
exactly. Where's the
saw it.
Twitter version of Jaron Kanik?
And you saw it in the interview. Like you saw his person. Where's the podcast version of
He
Jaron
said
Kanek?
meow 11 times.
Oh, I know. I started boasting. He looks me square in the eye. The first time he said it, my eyes lit up. And I think at that point in time, it was like game on. Like I was standing like almost face to face with him, like directly. And when he said it the first time, he like looks and like smirk. You can go back and watch. He like smirks. And I'm like, mother. And I turned to Ryan Chapman. I go, is he meowing? And Chapman just starts giggling. He goes, right, meow. He's meowing. So like, like, oh, I mean, like we were just like, what is going on? But it was funny. Like it was such a mechanic. And then obviously the milk on jugs comment, like the milk jug comment was on brand for him. And I think that blew up more than anything was the fact that he said that. And people they've gone to um our video on YouTube just because we had such an extensive, you know, portion of it and we got that on there. Um, I think something everybody's talking about, and everybody's talking about like the growth of the team, like physically. And you posted something about PJ Adebawara the other day and showed the difference.
Yeah.
And I think we need to dive into it. I don't, did I tell you on the phone? I did, didn't I? Like what the difference is and how they're going about it, like
Yes.
just differently.
Yeah. And man, I tell you, I think the guy that made the most conspicuous gains in terms of packing on more weight to me was David Stone.
Yeah. So that was brought
Man,
up to me yesterday too. So
David Stone at 313 pounds. Yes.
he looks phenomenal, by the way. And I had probably 5 or 6 people say he has been an absolute force to be reckoned with at practice so far. Just a force. I don't want to get too far, too far in front of the skis just yet, man, with the David Stone hype. But this could he be on the trajectory of like a GK McCoy, where you have like a okay redshirt freshman year, but his was a true freshman, right? And then that next year, that after the second year of playing and getting that PT, that everything skyrockets, and then year 3, he's like that dude in college football. So I I don't want to get too far ahead of it. He's got the talent. He has the work ethic for it. And what Oklahoma's doing now to allow these guys to stick with the weight, like they're going to look a little bit bigger during spring, and that was by design. So what they used to do and why Oklahoma struggled looking like the other SEC teams was they would wake up, they would drink a little protein shake, and then they would start running. And they would be going and going and going and going and going in the mornings. And then they would lift in the afternoon. And then they would practice in the evening or do their walkthroughs or 7-on-7s or, the 1-on-1s or whatever. They've switched that around now for those that don't know. They now just lift in the morning, right? They don't run or do anything physically like super exerting because they want them to have a few minutes they run. Because the second you do that and you wake up, and this is what was told to me, and you start running and you get your heart rate up, even after a protein shake in the morning, and even after a protein shake after you run, your body, your metabolism is so fired up that you just burn all that off so fast. So now they just want them to lift heavy, do the explosive stuff with the weights, go eat your breakfast after your protein shake, go eat lunch, and then come back in the middle of the afternoon and do your sprints after you've had a lot of calories intake into your body. So you have something to burn off that isn't just your fat and your muscle. And they said it has changed everything. That ideology has changed everything for Oklahoma as far as their physicality, as far as their weight. That's why you see PJ looking so different. David Stone looks so different. Who else just looks completely different in your mind? I
Hmm.
mean, Gavin
I
Sawchuk looks like a yoked up version of Gavin Sawchuk right now. He is huge. I think he weighs 207. Like, at what point did we ever think Gavin Sawchuk would be pushing 210?
Yeah, he came in, he was slight. That was the
Yes.
knock on him when he got to
Yes.
town was, man, he's got to bulk
But he
up
looks
if he's going to be
good
ready for the physicality of this level of football. And
and he's
yes,
moving
he
well.
looks like
Yeah.
the most physically prepared version of Gavin Sawchuk that we've seen. Uh, I don't really have a frame of reference for what he looked like before, at least not with my own two eyeballs. But Kendall
Kendall Daniels.
Daniels,
Yeah.
man,
I knew that's where you're
that is
going.
a
Yeah.
specimen. Hello,
Freak.
he looks awesome.
And everybody you talk to or that I've talked to has said he has been phenomenal at practice. Phenomenal. And they like the version of Kip Lewis, Kobe McKenzie, and Kendall Daniels at linebacker right now. And let us not forget Samuel Masigo's still around too. So like, and he's playing well according to everybody. So they have potential at linebacker. They have potential. I guess James Nesta is doing really well. I guess James Nesta lit up Jaron Kanik at one point in practice the other day. But I, the defense. I'm not worried about the defense. I think you get another defensive tackle. You get, by the way, Gentry Williams looks really good. He's pushing 200 pounds. Like looks good. Like all these guys look good physically for the first time you go into spring. You're like, remember we would always go into spring and think they don't really look that different than they did the year before. Maybe sometime in the fall they would, but not after 3 months. I
When
don't.
was the last time that was the case?
Last year I didn't think that a lot of the guys looked that different in winter and spring. I thought fall they did after like 6 months of working out. And there were some people that got mad because some of the guys they feel like lost weight. You remember like that was like the knock to be like,
Yeah,
why are these guys?
PJ didn't
Yeah,
put on anything.
yeah,
He was listed like 4 pounds heavier, or maybe it was 4 pounds lighter than he was in the fall. I do remember that.
yeah. And how much is he bigger now? How much more is he bigger now?
Yeah,
Several pounds. So like,
20 plus.
yeah. I mean, so my point is what they're doing is working. They look more physical. Now they're going to shred it. What they're going to do now is they're going to shred them down maybe a little bit. So you'll probably see David Stone maybe get up close to 315, 320, and then he'll shred down to about 310, 308, they think. And that's probably a good weight for him. So it's basically build up, build up, build up, then shred down and get them prepared for the season. And they think that's going to alleviate some injuries because the bodies won't be as taxed. There's a lot of reasoning for this new ideology, and I like it. I think it's you got to figure it out. I was told they had a meeting with a bunch of people, medical staff, everybody, training staff, and that they brought people in to sit down and go, how can it be fixed? And this is what they came up with. So I think fans are going to like that is taking place, particularly because of what happened last year. Like that was weird. It was bad. Um, the quarterback situation's interesting, and it's not because I think John Mateer is not going to be the starter. It's because, as we talked about, Michael Hawkins has conceded nothing,
Yep.
and he's playing well this spring. I was told that Mateer had his ups and downs the other day, but he also had like just some big plays, just big plays. So to me, I think that's probably what you're going to get out of him is you're going to get kind of like Baker, where sometimes you're like, what the hell are you doing when he was in college? Sometimes like, but then other times you're like, that was an amazing play because he's going to take those risks. And against BV's defense, those risks are tough to take, bro.
Yeah. Well, and I would just say this. John Mateer coming from Washington State, he's going to have to be more scrupulous about the risks that he does take because
Yes.
there's going to be less margin for error against SEC opponents. You're not going to be able to fit the ball into those tight windows that maybe you could when the defenders were a step slower or a millisecond less quick to react. So, man, like if we think about it, if we go back to last season, where did things come undone for Jackson Arnold? It was with turnovers, right? And so that is the one thing, more so than anything else, that John Mateer is going to have to avoid is the
Mm.
turnover bug. Because if he starts turning the football over, that is the quickest way to draw the ire of the fan base, and it's the quickest way to put your football team in an adverse situation,
Yeah.
right? Like this defense is good enough and there are good enough skill position guys on the offensive side of the ball that he doesn't have to have 44 total touchdowns again. That's not my expectation. I don't think that should be anybody's expectation. I've said this many a time. I think it bears repeating. John Mateer is going to draw the Baker Mayfield comparisons, and that's natural because there are some similarities to the way they carry themselves, just their look on the field, the competitive nature. But John Mateer is not somebody that I expect to be Baker Mayfield. I
Yeah.
don't think he's somebody that needs to be Baker Mayfield. If John
Agreed.
Mateer can be Dylan Gabriel, if John Mateer can be Dylan Gabriel, that is going to be more than good enough for Oklahoma to win a lot of football games in 2025.
No, I'm wholeheartedly agree. I think with that defense, with the returning guys, what they brought in on offense, with the wide receivers, everybody's talking up these wide receivers like they're just really good. I continue to hear just Manny Choice, freshman wide receiver, just dog.
He's
You know,
huge.
yeah, oh, he's big. Elijah Thomas, dog. Um, but those are just kind of the sentiments that I keep getting, and obviously Giovanni Gibson just continues to turn everybody's head. Like this dude has a chance to be that guy. I If you're an OU fan and you already see that Burks has already been kind of banged up a little bit, are you worried? Like, is that going to be his MO his whole time at Oklahoma?
I mean, it's fair. Like, I don't fault anybody who does have those worries. I don't. It's just it's stuff that happens in spring, right? Like Eli Bowen turns an ankle, he's in a boot.
He's in
Deion
boot
Burks
and
gets dinged up.
crutches.
Like, yeah, but like it's not something that's going to still be an issue come August. You know, if it shuts him down for the rest of spring ball, okay. I don't think anybody is worried about what missing the remainder of spring ball is going to do for Deion Burks and Eli Bowen. If it's a guy that has proven less on the football field, a guy that you feel like the team needs to take a big jump and learn experientially on the practice field and get better over the course of the spring, then maybe it's a bit more of a concern. But you know what Deion Burks is. You know what Eli Bowen
Mhm.
are. You know what they're going to be whenever they're healthy again.
The, without Peyton Bowen back there, obviously he's limited right now with his foot situation or toe situation. You're getting a lot of RSJ, Jayden Hardy, and Michael Boganowski, right? Like There is a lot of talk about Amarian Robinson.
Hey, there's
Everybody,
also a lot of talk too, and I'll tell you, don't this is kind of the forgotten man in the safety room. Reggie Powers. Reggie
yeah.
Powers looks good.
So I just yesterday, person walked up to us and just started like gushing over Michael Boganowski. You were standing there, and I just I think fans look at the Peyton Bowen situation, and some people are like, "Well, he's a." I've even had people say he's a bust, and I'm just like, "What in the world are you talking about?" But if that toe situation or foot situation can't get resolved, and he unfortunately has to have surgery or something because it doesn't heal properly, I don't know. Like, God forbid that happens. You're gonna be okay in the safety room. Like the way Brandon Hall is recruited, the way he continues to recruit in that room, yeah, all right. You're gonna be all right. And it may be a blessing in disguise if that happens because you're going to get guys and then you'll have more experience around Peyton Bowen when he is that dude, after RSJ leaves, right? Like he's going to have to be that dude this year to an extent, but I don't think it's necessary because I think RSJ is going to alleviate a lot of the issues. He's already had a couple of picks. RSJ has this spring. Like he has been playing very, very well. On the other side of the ball, we got our closest look at the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Like we got to stand like right next to him after being 100 yards away from him the first practice. Was there anything that you saw that stood out to you?
Yeah, from what I've seen and certainly from what I've heard from within, I'm starting to like Derek Simmons for that right tackle spot,
Mm-hmm.
which
Look good.
not a shock. He's a sixth year senior. He's a guy that you bring in with the expectation that he's going to start.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, you have other options. Jake Taylor, Luke Baklenko, Isaiah Autry Dent. But yeah, I like Derek Simmons for that right tackle spot right now. The newcomers look great, man. They there are no dudes that need anything in terms of help with the physical makeup, I guess. The Sooners didn't sign four dudes that need to put on another 20 pounds before they're ready to see game action.
Yeah.
They signed four dudes that are ready to go right the heck now if they needed to, which
Yeah.
they're not going to, they shouldn't need any of the four newcomers. Ryan Foje, Michael Fasusi, Darius Afalava, Owen Hollenbeck. They shouldn't need any of those guys in year one. There's no reason why any of them should see the field. And I know there's a lot of excitement regarding Fasusi. If there's somebody that could break through in year one, it's certainly him. But you've got enough depth there. You've got enough experience there that you can afford to just let those guys learn on their own timetable. Uh, the battle at left guard is going to be interesting to me because as I see it, and we've discussed this a little bit in the past, but let's say for the sake of the hypothetical, Derek Simmons is your starting right tackle. You got Jake Sexton at left. You got Troy Everett at center. You got Fabechi Wiwu at right guard. Those all seem like pretty safe bets right now.
Mm-hmm.
Who's your left guard? Is it Heath Ozida? Is it Eddie Pierre Louis? Does Jake Taylor slide back inside and maybe make some noise for that position,
Mm-hmm.
for that role? I don't know. There's a bunch of different ways that thing could go, but that'll be a battle worth watching throughout the spring and throughout the fall. Which, and by the way, if we're keeping it on the offensive side of the ball here, I know we're not the only ones that have said this. I know this is not the first time we have said this. Giovanni Gibson is
Yep.
going to be a guy.
Yep.
He's going to be a difference maker for this offense.
Yeah, he's really good. I I think when you look back at it, Ray was like, "Oh, they're going after these FCS guys and blah blah." And I'm like, "Dude, that guy had 1,300 yards. I don't care." They like Arkansas Pine Bluff. He one of his better games was against a Power Five opponent last year. Like so, like let's you gotta get away from the. I can't believe they're going after Power Five. A lot of these. P4 programs are built off the backs of the G5 programs, developing those players, and then the Power Four programs come in and pay them and poach them away. And that's just the reality of college football now. So I think you got to get past that because he's going to be that guy. Satania's look good. I trying to think who else they brought in. I haven't really. Those are the two names I've heard the most about as far as transfers go. Have you heard anything about any of the other guys?
Josiah Martin and Isaiah Satania have had their moments on the practice field.
Yeah. Satania, I brought up Satania. Yeah, I've heard great
Yeah,
things about
yeah,
Satania.
those guys. I feel good about this entire transfer group of wide receivers, man. Feels like all these guys are going to contribute in some capacity. That doesn't necessarily mean they're all catching 20, 30 balls. I don't know that there's enough targets to go around for all of them to catch 20, 30 balls, but feels like all
Yeah.
those guys are going to see the field. I referenced Derek Simmons. Uh, I, I, I don't know how much anyone cares at this point, but you care when this guy sucks, and you notice when he sucks. Jacob Ulrich, the transfer punter from Kennesaw State, like him a lot. Like him a
I
lot. I think he's going to fill Luke Elzinga's shoes very admirably. You never realize just how bad you need a good punter until you
mhm,
have a bad punter.
it's
Oh, you've
true.
been there.
Yeah. Ulrich is a interesting cat. Like just from a physicality
He looks like a
standpoint. Like he
surfer.
yes, that's kind of where I was headed. He doesn't look like a football player. I had to ask you who he was yesterday. I was like,
Yep.
who is that guy? Like, what is this? He's like, you're like, "That's the new punter, Jacob Ulrich." I was like, what?
Yeah. Ulrich
Like,
looks like a 6'5" surfer dude from Cali, but he's a heck of a
yeah,
punter.
yeah,
Heck of a
yeah.
punter.
I'm interested. Like, we got to see the field goal kickers. I don't know what to even make of that.
Really. How so?
They looked okay in our viewing. I like out of the two, who'd you think was the best?
I did not watch. I was
Okay.
over watching the quarterbacks at that point. Then the kickers were on the other field. So generally speaking, not going to get a whole lot of insight into what the kicking battle actually
Yeah,
looks like and is shaping up like until the fall. So
that's
Liam
fair.
Evans or Austin Welch. I mean, those are your options.
No, I mean, I thought Liam Evans, he nailed a freaking like 45 yarder when we were there and looked really good. Think could have went for about 65, but um I think Austin Welch he hit a few good ones. I think Liam missed like the closer one and he made the further ones. But I think that's going to be interesting is how they use them. Is are they going to have like the long distance kicker and the short range kicker because maybe one's better than the other, and that's something college programs do from time and again. I mean, so I think that'd be interesting. I don't know. I know talking kicking doesn't really get everybody excited, but that's a critical part. If you remember 2022,
Yeah.
you could have went 11-1.
No
You
Sooner
just
fan will ever
freaking,
poo-poo special teams talk
you
again after what
could
they've been through some of the last few
should have been a
seasons.
playoff team in 2022 if your field goal kicker had just made a few more field goals. So
Mm. To be fair, there were a lot of other things that needed to happen.
I know, but you get that they lost by three, what, five times? That'll hurt you. And there were multiple missed field goals in those games, by the way. Um, any recruiting? I guess Jaden O'Neal to visit to Georgia went okay. I'm actually supposed to talk to his dad after we get off the podcast here. He called in the middle of us recording, so I will have to get back at him about that. I'm sure that's what that phone call is going to be about. But from what I was told, I don't even want to say that just because maybe things have changed. But the original thought after the visit was that they were going to hold off and see how things went, all that type of stuff. So we'll see. We'll see how this plays out. this is going to be kind of the storyline of the spring summer is what quarterback is going to end up in OU's 2026 class? They
Yep.
already have one committed, but
And on the
uh,
recruiting front, I will say this, folks, if you are not subscribed at ouinsider.com, now is a great time to be subscribed
mhm,
because the amount of recruiting content that is on that board is literally unparalleled anywhere else.
it's very true, actually. Yep.
Unparalleled. You will get
Yeah.
more access to recruiting information and recruiting content at ouinsider.com than you will get anywhere else. That is a guarantee. And right now, there is all sorts of intel pinned on the
Mhm.
board at ouinsider.com regarding the Jaden O'Neal and Bo Bentley situation, regarding some other key targets in the 2026 class, regarding what's going on in the 2027 class at the
Mhm.
quarterback position. And that's a conversation with some additional intrigue in recent days. So that is the place to be. Make no mistake about it.
We also are really good about team notes, and we're not trying to pat our own back, but I mean, we have dropped hordes and hordes of spring football team notes, behind the scenes notes that you probably won't find anywhere else, and that's just because, we feel pretty good about what we do and how we do it. So, thank you guys for those that are already members. If you're not a member and you're a college student, like this is a great time to sign up. As Parker said, we can give you $11.95. All you have to do, email us, ouinsider@rivals.com from your .edu. I don't care if you go to Timbuktu University. It doesn't matter. Like wherever. You can go to Howard University. You can go to the University of Cal Berkeley. It doesn't matter. You email us from your .edu, ouinsider@rivals.com. Say, hey, send me that promo code. I want $11. I want 1 year for less than $1 a month. Bam. We'll send it your way. Same as a teacher, .k12, whatever email. We're doing it just for the month of March. We're going to allow y'all to do that again. Hit us up. Sign up. Come on board with us. Send an email, ouinsider@rivals.com from your teacher email account, from your active duty military account. If you're active duty military, we will send you all a promo code. Bam, you get it for less than $1 a month. It's an amazing deal. It's awesome. Everybody else, $9.95 a month, $99.95 for the whole year. We will be doing more promos as the year goes on, but right now it's kind of in the throes of recruiting and spring and all that type of stuff. So if you're not on board, if you're not on OU Insider VIP, you're missing out. Plus the community, there's thousands and thousands and thousands. Like people, you start your own threads and you conversate with everybody. That's the cool part about it. So, and you get Parker and I on a daily basis. Ask us questions. You got questions about OU? Softball, baseball, basketball, football, recruiting, whatever. Jesse, myself, Parker, Brody, like we can bring you the information that you want. All you got to do is ask on OU Insider VIP. All right, that's going to do it for this version of OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners podcast powered by Riverwind Casino. For Parker Thune, my name is Brandon Drum. You guys have a blessed day.